what do we need to do, what's the program, what's this going to look like, is a huge help. As it was, it felt like we were a little scattered on getting certain things done. Just, tournament registrations and parts organization and part storage and parts ordering and all those background support kinds of things that have to happen for that program. And so it felt a little unfocused and a little like nobody was particularly in charge. That's not a critique of anybody that was involved, because everybody that was involved did a lot of good work and put a lot of effort into it. But it certainly is helpful to have that person that is gonna take the point on the project and be in charge of a lot of those facets.
Do you think it's more effective if the teacher is less of a sponsor and more of a coach?
I think so. That's certainly been my experience. Yeah, limited experience, but yeah, I would say so. I think they're more invested and more involved and more determined in that sense. Also, it's difficult for a parent volunteer to make a lot of the decisions that have to be made. How are we going to get registered for tournaments? Who's going to do that? Who's going to be a tournament manager? Who's going to have access to those registrations? Those kinds of things seem like they need to be done by a St. Vrain District employee. And so I think parents certainly feel, and I think largely are, kind of on the outside of that process, and it's difficult for them to participate to the level that needs to be done to get those things accomplished. My involvement at Red Hawk has been, I think, probably a little higher than would be typical in a district situation, being that I'm not a district employee, just because I've had a really long history with Red Hawk School and with the principal here, and had a really good rapport with them, and was able to, I think, speak and address issues at a level that might normally have come from a district employee. Mm-hmm. But I certainly think that was kind of a relationship exception than
so it was more the rapport that you had within the school.
Yeah. As to other points on their expertise and resources was the other one. Money is always, an issue, and everybody's always pulling and looking and trying to find money for every program we're doing. VEX registrations, you've got a team registration to register your team to be able to compete in the season, and then you've got to register for every tournament, which the St. Vrain tournaments were relatively inexpensive, just a few dollars on those, but out-of-district tournaments can be $50 or $75 for a team. States, I think, was $150, and then Worlds this year is $975. So just to send one team to Worlds. So Red Hawk is sending two teams at $1,850.
Wow.
To get
that's
them
not there. Travel costs or anything.
That's not getting the kids there. That's just the registration fee, right? So there's definitely a need for money, and then the robot kits and replacement parts and part failures and new stuff that you need to get is all adds up too. So money is always an issue. Red Hawk has done an amazing job on fundraising and has had good support from the administration on those things, and have found pockets of money to spend on these things, which is great. Always can use more. It's difficult to budget for those world registrations because you don't know who's going to go to Worlds until March. And so you can think about fundraising for that or whatever, but of course the motivation within the community isn't there until they know somebody's going.
Yeah.
So our community schools program director here at Red Hawk Elementary has certainly done a really great job on fundraising. She's driven that largely, but our parent group last year did a great job, and our parent group this year of the kids on those teams are doing a really good job finding ways to raise money, whether that's through some sponsorships or donations from their companies that they work for, or some local fundraising, restaurant nights, so forth around the community. But there's an endless need, of course, like most things, to get more. And so that's certainly kind of going back to one of your earlier questions too about what can the district support on is if we have ways to be fundraising ahead of time and early on. That's certainly really helpful. The Education Foundation was able to cover a lot of the World's registration fees last year, and they weren't able to do that this year. So that was really a nice boost and benefit to all teams. I think we had 17 teams in the district last year that went to Worlds, and I think all of them got their registration fee covered, which was great. And so it's a big boost. This year, I guess some reorganization with the Ed Foundation, they weren't able to do that. Also last year, we did a fundraising event at the Longmont Boulder County Fairgrounds, and it was kind of an open house VEX display of VEX robotics within the St. Vrain district, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people show up at that, and it was really a successful event. I think Axel Retzig was largely responsible for that piece as well. We were unable to pull that off again this year. I think it was a scheduling problem as to when they had availability on the space, but that would be another area that the district could really support on is to that kind of a fundraising or that kind of showcase of the VEX program. I've been to a few VEX showcase kinds of events within the district that have been put on either by the district or by individual schools within the district, and they are always very well received. Lots and lots of interest, both by kids and parents, about what's this, what's going on, what are you doing here, and that expands beyond VEX as well into some other robotics territories, but certainly the VEX has attracted a lot of attention in that area. So if the district is able to support those kinds of things further would be great. Hopefully, the Boulder County Fairgrounds is a big space, so that's difficult to come by, but maybe the new Innovation Center might be able to do some more in that area. But planning those things out ahead of time so we could get space at a big event spot like the fairgrounds would be great. And then the other point on expertise, it kind of goes hand in hand to me with the volunteer piece a little bit, and also a little bit with the teacher coach that could be involved. The parent piece is attracting and convincing and getting those parents that have expertise in related fields to come in and volunteer their time and spend some time working on these things. And I think I've involved with a number of volunteer organizations, and I routinely see there's always the problem of people don't want or aren't willing to give their time, but there's also a common thread that I see in almost all volunteer organizations that people aren't sure that their time is needed. And so making them aware of what you can do, what do we need, and what can you do to fill those needs. Hey, you have an expertise in this area. We really need somebody to come in and teach, even if that's a once a year kind of a volunteer thing as opposed to a weekly kind of a thing.
I think that's a struggle that schools have in general, is that parent connection, trying to get people to be as involved as we can get them in our schools. Right. And to have that communication and that connection so that because that's serving all of us really well, and especially the students. Right.
We've really been spoiled at Red Hawk Elementary. The parent community here has really been great over the years that we've been here. But there's always the need for more and conveying.
It falls off at middle school too.
Yeah. We've seen it fall off even just over the course of elementary school. So we were the inaugural class here when Red Hawk Elementary opened with our older daughter in kindergarten. And we were really, kindergarten, first grade, really strong volunteerism. Second grade, you could tell it was a little bit less. Third grade was quite a bit less. Time you got to fifth grade, the number of parents that go on field trips and whatever is like 5% of what are going on. Everybody's going on.
Yeah, they have to do a lottery in kindergarten.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but I have seen in a lot of volunteer organizations that some of that is definitely geared around, not a big piece of it, but some of it is geared around a parent not necessarily knowing that their skill and their time is worthwhile and valuable to the project at hand. And so communicating that information effectively and selling the parents on the idea that, hey, You don't have to come in every week. You can come in once a month.